A breakthrough in Ukrainian medicine which allows to cure the most serious bone injuries. One leg was 5 centimeters shorter than the other one. How Donetsk Mainers helped doctors invent a unique cell technology which literally allows for regenerating dead tissues. The bone must be remodeled, that is, it must be transported from a dead bone to a live one. Can you go all the way from a scheduled leg amputation to having both legs in full length? Find out in today's series of Master of Crafts. Advanced biotechnology is the future of medicine, according to the leading teams of scientists that engaged in projects one after another. Today, it is possible even to grow heart tissue in vitro to replace the damaged parts, so it will be possible to apply the technology in around 10 years. Science will be able to print out a whole organ on a 3D printer and transplant it instead of using a donor organ or a prosthetic. Almost everything is ready to realize the project, but the grown organ will be expensive, costing several $100,000. In 30 or 50 years, it will be possible to reconstruct a lost limb. That's what the future is about. The Ukrainian clinic has proven for a number of years that advanced biotechnology is already present, not the future. What can be done when all hope is lost to save and reconstruct a shattered leg? Moreover, we already have defenders of Ukraine returning home today who do not want to remain crippled for the rest of their life. How did Donetsk become the home of the invention of this unique cell technology? Right now on UATV, we will tell a story about a medical team which pushed Ukraine into the top ranks of global regenerative medicine. Igor Fedko has been defending Ukraine from the first days of the Russian invasion. In August 2014, near the Saur-Mohyla strategic height, he was severely wounded by a grenade explosion. We were ambushed. 6 soldiers have survived, of a total of 24. I had to crawl out of there alone. I was left behind as my comrades thought I was dead. I had to crawl out of there alone the whole night. It was a miracle that Igor survived, but his left femur was injured, which left him disabled. My leg was 5 centimeters shorter than the other one. I limped constantly and I had to use crutches or a cane to move around. This was either a condition for life or dozens of operations spanning several years in order to lengthen the bone. Igor preferred to choose the third option. Now, thanks to this clinic, they will grow this bone based on my DNA and put it back in its natural place, and my leg will be restored to normal walking condition. Any ordinary traumatologist or orthopedist would have called this science fiction. Dr. Volodymyr Oksamets from the Ilaya clinic in Kyiv did not. His patients are people who were advised to get an amputation or to come to terms with their injuries. The cells, which must participate in the bone healing process, die off far from the line of fracture or point of injury, that is the place where a fragment of a mine or shell struck in the bone. In order to heal, the bone must be remodeled, that is, it must be transformed from a dead bone to a living one. The cell technology method allows to reconstruct all damaged parts. Volodymyr Oksamets has almost 30 years of experience in healing fractures that cannot unite. My teachers always told me that you can always amputate an injured limb. They also told me that any natural limb is always better than a prosthetic one. My father had to use a prosthetic limb, and believe me, it was a high-quality German one. Often, he just took it off and walked without the prosthetic limb using crutches because it was hard walking in the prosthetic one. Even the famed Ilaya apparatus, which fixed bones using a special mechanism, has limited usefulness. Since 1993, Volodymyr Oksamets has been working at the Donetsk Research Institutes of Traumatology and Orthopedics, and he saw his fair share of severe traumas. This industrial region with large factories and coal mines is rife with both separate and large-scale accidents. It isn't enough just to rescue the miners from a cave-in. Some of them were hospitalized with high-energy trauma, which means they were injured by very strong blows. In such cases, the bone doesn't only fracture. Cells which heal fractures die around the impact point. Not a single orthopedician can revive a dead bone without the help of a fellow biotechnologist. I got acquainted with Dmytro Zubrov in 2004. Then the two directors of our institute, academician Green and Professor Klimovitsky, decided to use cell technologies and started developing technologies to treat the consequences of severe limb traumas.
Использовать вот эти вот клеточные технологии, начали разрабатывать эти технологии для лечения последствий тяжелых травм конечностей.
That's how our team was created. We've been experimenting on rats in Donetsk since the middle of 2000s, hoping to save the severely injured miners from permanent disability. And it is often the case the answer was found in the works of a Ukrainian scientist. MMSCs are multipotent mesenchymal stem cells. They were initially called stem cells, but then renamed stromal cells. Our compatriot Alexander Friedenstein discovered them in 1960s. He was derided by his fellow scientists. Today, he's one of the most frequently cited scientists in his field. With the help of MMSCs, the first successful operations were undertaken in Donetsk. Then the team was separated. The biotechnologists with Dmytro Zubrov and their head moved to Kiev, while Volodymyr Oximets remained in Donetsk. I dreamed of developing such technology, upgrading it and enhancing it. We had invited Volodymyr to join us on many occasions since 2011. Let's say that you work for a month in Kiev, then you go here, treat your Kiev patients, then you go and treat your Donetsk patients. We considered this option, but in 2014 the well-known event was the war happened and the laboratory, which remained in Donetsk, lost all financing and I was done with it.
В общем-то, на той лаборатории финансирования полностью, которая осталась в Донецке, поставил крест.
In the end of summer 2014, at the height of fighting in the east of Ukraine, Volodymyr Oximets moved to Kiev and realized that this is when their unique technology was needed as it never before. These technologies are useful precisely to treat the consequences of military combat traumas. This is exactly where this technology will work. The Kiev Ilaya clinic offered financing of the Oximets and Zubrov enterprise. In the fall of 2014, the first operation was performed. How it works. The cell technology, which allows bones to regenerate, has taken years of research and experiments to develop. The first stage is to select a patient who can be treated and prepare him or her for the operation procedure. Sometimes we have to perform 2 or 3 operations before the transplantation itself to prepare the host bed where the transplant will be placed. Because if you just put the transplant made by Dmytro in an unprepared host bed, it will simply die.
Он просто погибнет.
Then Dmytro Zubrov's team joined in. The biotechnologist's task is to find suitable cell material in the patient's body and put the transplant into the dead bone. We use not only the MMSCs of the bone marrow, but also 2 more types of cells, which are all called periosteum-derived progenitor cells. While the defects can sometimes be large in size, they also need to receive nutrients, which is why we make a 3rd type of cell. We cultivate the vascular and synthetical cells, which we get from the patient's venous blood. That's how we get 3 sources: a small bone fragment, bone marrow aspirate, and blood. Traditionally, a medical transplantation involves taking an unnecessary piece of the body, for example, a rib fragment, and transplanting it instead of the affected part. However, this method has a low success rate, according to Dr. Oximets. At the Ilaya clinic, the biotechnologists prepare an ideal transplant, multiplying the cell cocktail taken from a patient by the millions of special incubators. Essentially, this is building material that can be given any desired form if a specific part of the bone must be covered, and the cells will themselves understand where and how to grow. The simplest analogy to draw would be a house that has collapsed after a gas explosion. The collapsed floors cannot be repaired by the building dwellers themselves, many of whom tragically died. Trying to cover the hole with a part of another building would not be very beneficial. For this building to be inhabitable, a team of experienced builders must be sent, complete with the building blueprints and all the necessary material. This team of builders are the MMSCs, along with the other 2 types of auxiliary cells used in this technology for bone reconstruction and healing.
Вот благодаря тому, что вот сейчас мы используем 3 клеточные культуры,
Thanks to the 3 cell cultures we're using, we can treat even defects in large bones, which are up to 10 or 15 centimeters in size. The same technology is used in the Ilaya clinic to regenerate joints. Since 2014, a total of 75 successful treatments were provided here. That means that 75 people were saved from using prosthetics or from permanent disability. Not every patient is a Ukrainian citizen. I've talked to people who come here from abroad to receive treatment for a consultation, not only here in Kyiv. They also travel to Donetsk for a consultation, having come to Ukraine from Germany, Austria and the Netherlands. Recently, we had patients from Canada. A full course of treatment at the Ilaya clinic in Kyiv costs around $20,000 and takes from half a year to a year to complete. After the course is finished, the patients can already walk. A volunteer organization called People's Project is raising funds to pay the treatment of Ukrainian soldiers. One of the patients who has completed the course is war veteran Andrei Biliv. He came today to the clinic for an examination by Dr. Oximets. He walks on his own 2 legs. To onlookers, it is impossible to recognize which leg Andrei has lost. Here is a defect, 8 centimeters, and here is a healthy little bone. In its entirety, here is the defect that once was, but is no more. During a maneuver, our motorized column was ambushed. That's when I was injured. It was a perforating wound. My shin bone was shattered, and defect was 8 centimeters in size. Now I can walk and people don't notice anything about it. I mean, people who don't know about the injury have no way of knowing or detecting such an injury. Ilaya clinic director Alexei Shershnyov mentions that his doctors not only save people from permanent disability, but also save government money. According to our estimations, we have saved from 200 to 400 million hryvnia of taxpayers' money because there is no need to pay disability pension, which are needed for a disabled person of the 2nd category. I'm not even mentioning the cost of various bionic prosthetics, which may cost several times more than our regenerative therapy. According to Alexei Shershnyov, a similar technology is used at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland, USA. There, the wounded soldiers get transplanted bone tissue from donors, not from their own cell material. This technology is already patented, and the Ilaya clinic has been in the process of getting international certification for its own enhanced technology for 2 years already. Today, the technology of bone regeneration using MMSCs from the patient's body is used only by the Ukrainian team of doctors and biotechnologists. They expect the support of the Ukrainian government and are ready to prove to any expert that the technology, which sounds like science fiction from the near future, has already been proven to effectively work in Ukraine.